Hi friends! I wonder if I'm the only one who feels like the world's gone completely mad.
Уважаемый Владимир Владимирович,
Уважаемый президент нашей страны,
Президенту Российской Федерации Владимиру Владимировичу Путину.
Familiar footage? I could make hours of such compilations, but I'll better spare your time and mine. It doesn't matter whether a single person or a whole group is addressing the esteemed Vladimir Vladimirovich. Whether the recording is made in an apartment or on the street, whether the speakers hold posters or not, whether they read from the paper or are skilled enough to memorize the text. The result of such appeals to the Tsar father is always the same. Local officials summon these people to tell them off in a very, very unpleasant way. If I'm not mistaken, Einstein defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. What interests me more is that the fact is not the fact of addressing the good Tsar, but the question of why people still believe this is the only most effective way to solve their problems. There are, of course, many reasons. Believe that the Tsar is good, it's only the boyars who are bad. Years of brainwashing on federal television, years of systematic destruction of the opposition and the whole civil society, and a total lack of understanding of how the state actually works and what funds officials at any level live on. One could feel pity for these people, but I don't and won't. They don't deserve my pity, my respect, or my empathy. It is they who have led their country to aggression against another nation. They who want their neighbors to live worse than they do. They who sincerely believe that through murder and weapons they can force respect and love. They who have tuned lies and hypocrisy into the daily practice of their existence. They who think themselves far smarter and superior to all other nations. Every nation has the ruler it deserves. So keep on marching in step with your dear Vladimir Vladimirovich. Maybe I've just been lucky and didn't notice that the world went mad a long time ago. In ancient Greece, laws were harsh, but as the Greeks themselves believe, fair. Gouged out someone's eyes, gouged out your own as well. Blinded a one-eyed man, then you have to lose both eyes, otherwise there would be not fair. Moreover, not only people but also objects couldn't add up on trial. A stone, a tree, or a piece of iron that fell and killed someone would be subject to official court proceedings. So nobody was particularly surprised when a statue was accused of murder. And not just any statue, but a bronze monument to the famous athlete Theagenes. Legend claimed that his father was none other than Heracles, which explained his superhuman strength. Theagenes shone in the Hellenic Games and almost always came out the victor. During his lifetime, he earned his own statue, which after his death ended up with a criminal sentence. The story is simple. One defeated rival couldn't accept his loss. After Theagenes' death, he would come at night and furiously whip the statue. From the blows, the bronze giant shifted and eventually toppled over, crushing his tormentor to death. The dead man's sons didn't hesitate. They took the statue to court. The law is harsh. The monument was found guilty of murder, so solemnly drawn into the sea. And then mysticism came. A bad harvest struck, followed by famine and plague. The Greeks, true to form, ran to Delphic oracle, who reminded them, haven't you forgotten you drawn the bronze Theagenes? Once the statue was dragged out of the sea and restored to its place, the disasters mysteriously ceased. Moral, the ancient Greek truly believed that statues could decide the fate of the people. We live in the 21st century and should in theory be smarter. By looking at a certain great country with its cult of monuments and its attempts to solve the problems by erecting yet another statues to Stalin, statues to Ivan the Terrible, well, maybe we haven't strayed so far from ancient Greek's logic, after all. As we know, one of the main pretexts, to be more precise, excuse for Russia's invasion of Ukraine is NATO alleged creeping toward Russia's border. In other words, Ukraine charted a course towards NATO membership, which supposedly meant NATO was coming too close to Russia. According to the Kremlin, it's all very logical. Russia is for peace, therefore it was forced to start a war so that peace would come for future generations of Russians. Just like Hitler was forced to start the war in Poland in 1939, Putin was forced to start the war in Ukraine in 2022. And here I want to make a small digression and share my thoughts on what distinguishes a developed brain from an undeveloped one. With an undeveloped brain, everything is simple. It is given information and it blindly follows the logic presented. A developed brain, when given information, analyzes the logic and asks questions to confirm or disprove it. Let me explain this with an example. As children, we all asked our mothers, "Mom, where did I get from? Where did you get me from? Where did I come from?" The answers varied. We brought you at a special store, or we found you in a cabbage patch, or a stoke brought you. And think back to your childish reaction with a still undeveloped brain. "Oh, Mom, now all it makes sense. Thank you. Now I know where I came from." But a person with a developed brain would ask, "Okay, you brought me at the store. But how did I get to the store in the first place?" And the parental life for good would slowly fall apart. Now, let's get back to our moron and his reasons for invading Ukraine. Let's look at the map of Europe where NATO countries are highlighted in blue. As you can see, Monaco, Andorra and Luxembourg are completely surrounded by NATO members. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kosovo, Switzerland and Austria have more than 70% of their borders with NATO states. Yet for some reason, none of them demand from their neighbors to leave the alliance. None feel endangered. And none start wars with their neighbors to secure a peaceful future for their citizens. So maybe it's not about NATO countries being at your border, but about the leader of one big country that launches a war under an invented pretext. Russians, please quit your stupidity. Maybe it's time to show to Putin that the people around him are not as dumb as he thinks. Which means Putin will end up just like another leader lived last century who also claimed he was forced to start a war. In Samoa, discipline is handed in its own unique way. If a person disgraces their village, there are no suspended sentences or fines and dollars waiting for them. Here, far weightier unit of measure come into play. Pigs. Thus, former national rugby team manager Tuala Matthew Vea was found guilty by his village elders for improper conduct at the 2011 Rugby World Cup. And the punishment was set accordingly, 100 pigs. According to the respected elders, that was the price of a big party at the team's expense. The reason? Team captain Mahori Schwolger wrote to the Prime Minister complaining that while the players tried to stay in shape, the manager and rugby officials behaved more like bar regular customers, drinking, partying, hanging out with friends, just full package. As a result, the team, unsurprisingly, looked far less energetic on the field than at the banquet table. Players confirmed the captain's account, the eldest stepped in, and Via was handed the bill, 100 pigs. By local standards, this was a very serious fine, about $2,500. In the end, though, he paid cash, so the herd of animals was spared. But, as they say, the bad taste remained. The moral? In Samoa, you can lose the respect of your entire village and pay 100 pigs just for mistaking the World Cup for a corporate party. Unfortunately for us living in the 21st century, concepts like loss of reputation or shameful behavior have completely lost their meaning. Hardly anyone thinks about how their actions are perceived by others. Anyone is utterly indifferent these days. Whereas 50, 60 years ago, society leaned forward the opposite extreme. Before doing anything, people worried, what will other people say about me? In my opinion, both behavioral extremes are marginalized and do not contribute to the healthy development of society. So perhaps we need something like a council of elders, the most respected people of the country, who would be guided not by codes of laws, but by age-old moral norms developed by humanity. Note, this is not a legal body, yet Matthew Vea unquestionably obeyed the decision. The only question is, how do we make sure corruption and familiarity don't creep into such council of elders? What do you think about it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, my friends. Share them down in the comments. I'll be reading them all.